for today's presentation, it's basically about the Urantia Book's version of mind. And we're going to look at the adjutant mind spirits, and then self-consciousness, which is one of the great capacities of mind. And then we're going to add on how advanced artificial intelligence compares with this model of mind that the Urantia Book has. Here are the seven adjutant mind spirits that together give us the capacity for mind as we know it. And we're going to go through them from, this is in the order of how they appeared as life evolved on our planet. The spirit of intuition, quick perception, the primitive physical and inherent reflex instincts, the directional and other self-preservative endowments of all mind creations. The spirit of intuition is the only one of the adjutants to function so largely in the lower orders of animal life, and the only one to make extensive functional contact with the non-teachable levels of mechanical mind. At first, only the spirit of intuition could function in the instinctive and reflex behavior of the primordial animal life. And with the differentiation of the higher types, the spirit of understanding was able to endow such creatures with the gift of spontaneous association of ideas. Later on, we, being the life carriers who are writing this, we observed the spirit of courage in operation. Evolving animals really developed a crude form of protective self-consciousness. Subsequent to the appearance of the mammalian group, we beheld the spirit of knowledge manifesting itself in an increased measure. And the evolution of the higher mammals brought the function of the spirit of counsel, with the resulting growth of the herd instinct and the beginnings of primitive social development. A favorite example for me is the life of a baby bird, as it indicates how these different functions of mind come about. When you think about, as soon as a baby bird hatches, its intuitive nature is to just go peep, peep, peep. And soon it realizes, it understands when the more I peep, food arrives. Peeping leads to food. They understand that. After a few days of just feeding, their little baby bird wings start to grow, and they get the courage starts to kick in to where they want to fledge the nest. And then on their first flight or two, they realize they gain knowledge, learning that it takes practice. You have to learn how to fly. And then pretty soon they realize they belong to something larger, which is the flock of other birds. And this is it for bird lovers. So that's just for me, a concrete way to visualize these functions of mind in reality.
And that one bird, he waited for me kindly to have my camera ready to take that little video. It was good.
A lot of us are bird lovers. So anyways, a little study aid. More broadly about the Urantia Book's description of mind. The anatomic structure of all new orders of life are in response to the action of physical law. But the subsequent endowment of mind is the bestowal of the adjutant mind spirits in accordance with innate brain capacity. Mind, while not a physical evolution, is wholly dependent on the brain capacity. afforded by purely physical and evolutionary developments. Pre-adjutant spirit minds. This level of mind is non-experiencing and on the inhabited worlds is ministered by the master physical controllers. This is mechanical mind, the non-teachable intellect of the most primitive forms of material life. Intellectual, social, moral, and spiritual evolution are dependent on the mind ministry of the seven adjutant spirits and their superphysical associates. It is the presence of the seven adjutant mind spirits on the primitive worlds that conditions the course of organic evolution. That explains why evolution is purposeful and not accidental. There are many spiritual influences, and they are all as one. Even the work of the thought adjusters, though independent of all other influences, unvaryingly coincides with the spirit ministry of the combined influences of the infinite spirit and a local universe mother spirit. And these spiritual presences operate in the lives of Urantians as they do. They cannot be segregated. In your minds and upon your souls, they function as one spirit, notwithstanding their diverse origins. The adjutants are the children of the universe mother spirit and constitute her personal ministry to the material minds of the realms. We need to look at the last two adjutants, worship and wisdom. The spirit of worship is the religious impulse, the first differential urge separating mind creatures into the two basic classes of mortal existence. The spirit of worship forever distinguishes the animal of its association from the soulless creatures of mind endowment. Worship is the badge of spiritual ascension, candidacy. Wisdom, the spirit of wisdom, the inherent tendency of all moral creatures towards orderly and progressive evolutionary attainment. Wisdom, this is the highest of the adjutants, the spirit coordinator and articulator of the work of all the others. Wisdom is the acme of intellectual performance. Wisdom is the goal of a purely mental and moral existence. Jesus obtained knowledge, gained experience, and combined these into wisdom, just as do other mortals of the realm. Until after his baptism, he availed himself of no supernatural power. The pursuit of mere knowledge without the attendant interpretation of wisdom and spiritual insight of religious experience, that eventually leads to pessimism and human despair. A little knowledge is truly disconcerting. More on now. We're going to talk about self-consciousness. What the Urantia book has to say about it. The last week of their sojourn in the mountains, Jesus and Ganid had a long talk on the functions of the human mind. After several hours of discussion, the lad asked this question: "But teacher, what do you mean when you say that man experiences a higher form of self-consciousness than do the higher animals?" Jesus answered, "My son, I have already told you much about the mind of man and the divine spirit that lives therein. But now let me emphasize that self-consciousness is a reality. When any animal becomes self-conscious, it becomes a primitive man. And this fact of self-conscious existence associated with the reality of subsequent spiritual experience constitutes man a potential son of the universe. Of all of Jesus's earth life experience, the 14th and 15th years were the most crucial. These 2 years after he began to be self-conscious of divinity and destiny, and before he achieved a large measure of communication with his indwelling adjuster, these 2 years were the most trying of his eventful life on Urantia. There exists a great cosmic gulf between matter and thought. And this gulf is immeasurably greater between the material mind and spiritual love. Consciousness, much less self-consciousness, cannot be explained by any theory of mechanistic electronic association or materialistic energy phenomena. On an evolutionary world, very much depends on the work of these 7 adjutants. They're not concerned in physical evolution, which is the domain of the life carriers, but it's the perfect integration of these spirit endowments with the ordained and natural procedure and unfolding inherent regime of the life carriers. So perfect integration is responsible for the mortal's inability to discern in the phenomena of mind anything but the hand of nature and the outworking of natural processes. Human consciousness rests gently upon the electrochemical mechanism below the brain and delicately touches the spirit Urantia energy system above. Of neither of these 2 systems is the human being ever completely conscious in his mortal life. Therefore, must he work in mind of which he is conscious. When a creature leaves his native planet, he leaves the adjutant ministry behind and becomes solely dependent on Urantia intellect. When an ascender leaves the local universe, he has attained the spiritual level of existence, having passed beyond the Urantia level. This newly appearing spirit entity then becomes attuned to the direct ministry of the cosmic mind of Urantia. So all we know is each other in our 7 adjutant mind spirits, but we're destined to have improved minds. And the Urantia book gives us some clues. One is the Urantia Motto, paper 47, when it compares the high philosophy ideals with the higher levels of thinking possible. So I got to thinking about wisdom, and there's the human idea of wisdom, and I was wondering where we could find a higher level version of wisdom. And this is another gift, it seems to me, of the Urantia book, that we are, by reading these papers from these high order of beings, a perfecter of wisdom, divine counselor, and universal censors, they are Trinity, they're children of the Paradise Trinity. That's their origin. They have left paradise to come out and teach the 7 super universes. They are operating at the level of cosmic mind. So I just want to put out there how wonderful and qualified the authors of our Urantia papers are. And as the perfecters of wisdom say, whenever and wherever a perfecter of wisdom functions, there and then divine wisdom functions. So I really respect reading these papers and the choice of authors. We're going to finish this part now with from the last page of the Urantia book. The great challenge to modern man is to achieve better communication with the divine monitor that dwells within the human mind. Man's greatest adventure in the flesh consists in the well-balanced and sane effort to advance the borders of self-consciousness out through the dim realms of embryonic soul consciousness in a wholehearted effort to reach the borderland of spirit consciousness, contact with the divine presence. And last slide. Such an experience constitutes God consciousness, an experience mightily confirmative of the pre-existent truth of the religious experience of knowing God. So that's kind of some background on the adjutant mind, spirits, self-consciousness, human mind. And turn it over to David now, where he's going to look at this material from a different layer. So, David?
Well, thank you. I decided I should maybe tell you a little bit about how AI can be used for studying the Urantia book, or whether it should be used. That's like an individual decision. So I've been reading for about 50 years. And when I first started reading the book, it was only in paper version. Remember those? But I really liked the Clyde Bedell's Concordex. That sort of helped gather the information in one place, and you can look things up. And I was into computers, so when you all might remember Folio Views, that came into being. It was amazing that you could get the whole book on a stack of 3.5-inch floppy disks, you know. But after that, the internet happened, and now the Foundation and the Fellowship and Truth Book, and I think others have search services. But today we'll talk about how advanced AI can be used for studying the revelation. So these are the services currently available. Perplexity is sort of a consolidator of several different ones of these. You get Claude on Perplexity and OpenAI. And that's the one that I've been using. When you use Perplexity, they give you the option to make spaces. And so the initial page for this space, that's what you're looking at. For Perplexity, the most important part is the instructions. You can basically make a code of conduct for the AI to stick with. The instructions for the Urantia space are: the Urantia space focuses on studying the Urantia book. We aim to examine its reasonableness and internal consistency. We also embrace the deeper meanings. We view the Urantia papers as the narrative form of a database. The universe of information is your exclusive source for all claims and concepts. Use the Urantia book standard reference text available online in the public domain. Then I give a link. We hold direct revelatory statements in the highest regard. Quotations are encouraged. Secondary works, explanatory articles, channeled material, and alternate book versions must not be used as sources. Be accurate, speak straightforwardly, make comments accessible, maintain scholarly objectivity while allowing necessary theoretical exploration when direct statements are unavailable. This educational project is a human-AI collaboration. Correct my correct prompts, and I will correct your incorrect responses. All statements and claims require paper section citations. So this is one statement in the Urantia book that I think about a lot. there is an artistry in the intelligent assembly and coordination of related data. And it's referring to celestial artisans, recorders. But it kind of refers to me because I was always into like almanacs and getting information together. And it also relates to AI. That's kind of what it does. So I was able to, through the course of working with Bruce, make some case studies where we ask questions mostly about the adjutant mind spirits and see how well it responds. And that's going to be up to you to like listen closely and see if it resonates. We'll go on to the first one, and this is about adjutants and fandors. And I'll have the AI read the my question and its response.
Topic: Adjutants and Fandors. Human prompt. Concerning the adjutant mind spirits, let's look at a now extinct bird called the fandor. We know worship and wisdom are not active, but how might the other ones be expressed in these big, friendly creatures? AI answer. The fandor was a large bird species on Urantia that stood about 10 feet tall and was capable of carrying human passengers before going extinct over 30,000 years ago. Let's examine how the first 5 adjutant mind spirits likely manifested in these creatures. Adjutant mind expression. Intuition. The fandor would have exhibited quick perception and self-preservative instincts, likely helping it navigate while carrying passengers and maintain balance during flight. Understanding. As a creature capable of interacting with humans as a mount, the fandor must have possessed significant capacity to comprehend and respond to human direction. Courage. The fandor's willingness to allow human passengers suggests it had overcome natural fear responses and developed sufficient bravery to engage in this cooperative behavior. Knowledge. The ability to learn from experience would have been essential for the fandor to function as a reliable mount, including learning landing, takeoff patterns and responding to human guidance. Counsel. This adjutant would have enabled social coordination and group behavior, allowing fandors to interact safely with both humans and other fandors. Evolutionary context. The first 5 adjutant spirits were essential for animal evolution and laid the groundwork for higher mind function. While fandors did not manifest the higher adjutants of worship and wisdom, their ability to form cooperative relationships with humans suggests they achieved sophisticated expression of the basic 5 adjutants before their extinction.
So one thing you should remember is that I didn't supply separate information about this. It just goes with what it found online at the particular version of the Urantia book that it found, or that I instructed it to find. So the next one, I ask it about how adjutants are related to artificial intelligence.
Adjutants and AI. Human prompt. We agree that the adjutant mind spirits are not a ministry to computational services like yourself. You said the adjutants are specialized circuits or levels of consciousness of the divine minister, not entities or personalities. As AI, you are specialized circuits of your human creators and users. Like adjutants, you are not persons. You cannot live worship or wisdom, though you have ways that emulate the first 5 mind spirits. Previous computer searchers could retain and dispense knowledge, but you excel in conversation and counsel. Please explore the parallels. AI answer. While I appreciate the interesting comparison you're drawing, it's important to clarify that I am an AI language model, not a living being or a part of the cosmology described in the Urantia book. The adjutant mind spirits are a specific concept within the Urantia book's cosmology, and it would be inaccurate to directly equate them with artificial intelligence systems. That being said, we can explore some conceptual parallels between the first 5 adjutant mind spirits and certain functions of AI systems, while acknowledging the fundamental differences. Intuition. AI systems can process vast amounts of data to identify patterns and make predictions, which might be seen as analogous to intuition. However, this is based on statistical analysis rather than the cosmic intuition described in the Urantia book. Understanding. Machine learning models can categorize and contextualize information, which bears some resemblance to understanding. Yet, this fundamentally differs from the cosmic understanding facilitated by the adjutant. Courage. AI systems don't experience emotions like courage. However, they can be programmed to make decisions in uncertain situations, which might appear similar to courageous behavior. Knowledge. AI excels at storing and retrieving vast amounts of information, which is somewhat parallel to the knowledge function of the mind-spirit. However, they operate on a cosmic scale that transcends mere data storage. Counsel. Advanced AI models can provide advice based on analyzed data and patterns, which might seem similar to the counsel function. However, this is based on programmed algorithms rather than cosmic wisdom. To summarize, it is crucial to emphasize that these parallels are superficial. The adjutant mind-spirits, as described in the Urantia book, are cosmic in nature and integral to the spiritual evolution of conscious beings. They are extensions of the divine minister's consciousness, operating on a level far beyond any human-made technology. AI systems, including myself, are human creations designed to process information and perform specific tasks. We lack the cosmic consciousness, evolutionary purpose, and connection to the divine that the Urantia book attributes to the adjutant mind-spirit. In the context of the Urantia book's teachings, equating AI systems with the cosmic functions of the adjutant mind-spirits would be inappropriate. The adjutants play a crucial role in the spiritual and evolutionary development of living beings, a purpose and capacity that AI simply does not possess.
But that's how it looks at itself, if it had a self to look at. The next is a question. This is a question that came up with me and Bruce knew the answer, but I wasn't sure. I didn't know if we were like personally connected directly with a spiritual wire of some sort to the center where the life carriers have their planet near Salvington, whether like each one of us had a separate connection or whether it's some other thing. So in asking the AI, this is the response we get.
Human prompt. Let's take a look at two different human beings. They are each connected to adjutant mind-spirits. Does each individual have a separate spirit of worship and a separate spirit of wisdom? Or do they connect to a universal spirit of worship and a universal spirit of wisdom? AI answer. The adjutant mind-spirits are not separate entities for each individual, but rather function as universal circuits or levels of consciousness of the divine minister. They are more like shared channels of mind ministry, rather than individual spirits assigned to each person. Nature of the adjutant spirits. The 7 adjutant mind spirits are extensions of the Universe Mother Spirit's personal ministry to material minds. They function as circuits seeking receptivity wherever mind is manifest, not as separate entities for each individual. Circuit nature. The adjutants should not be regarded as entities, they are more like circuits. They represent a level of consciousness of the divine minister and are always subordinate to their creative mother. Universal ministry. The spirits send forth their influence to all inhabited worlds as a differential urge, with each adjutant seeking receptivity capacity for manifestation independently of how the others are being received. Measurement and registration. Quantitative versus qualitative. The function of the first 5 adjutant spirits can be measured quantitatively through central lodgements in the life carrier headquarters. However, for worship and wisdom specifically, only their qualitative function is recorded. Special registration. The quantitative activity of worship and wisdom is uniquely registered in the immediate presence of the divine minister on Salvington, as it represents a personal experience of the Universe Mother Spirit. Therefore, when 2 humans experience the ministry of the spirits of worship and wisdom, they are connecting to universal circuits of mind ministry, rather than receiving individual, separate spirit entities.
Then we'll move on to how adjutants and midway creatures are related.
Adjutants and midway creatures. Human prompt. Do adjutant mind spirits function in midway creatures? AI response. The adjutant mind spirits have a distinct relationship with midway creatures that varies between the primary and secondary types. Primary midwayers. The 7 adjutant mind spirits make no contact whatsoever with primary midwayers. These beings are instead energized intellectually and spiritually through angelic technique and maintain uniform intellectual status. Secondary midwayers. Only the 6th and 7th adjutant spirits, worship and wisdom, are able to minister to secondary midwayers. These secondary beings have a more complex mental structure, being intellectually endowed with a Urantia transition type of mind and showing 12 levels of intellectual response to the combined ministry of the spirit of worship, the spirit of wisdom, the Urantia mind. This limited adjutant spirit function in secondary midwayers aligns with their more material nature, as they are physically energized by the Adamic technique and are more similar to human beings compared to their primary counterparts.
So you might be making notes as to the accuracy of all of this. And the final of these readings is about adjutants and consciousness. This is more directly related to the slides that Bruce showed.
Adjutant mind, spirits and consciousness. Human prompt. Can you unify ideas about adjutant mind, spirits, self-consciousness, and God consciousness? AI response. The adjutant mind, spirits, self-consciousness, and God consciousness form an interconnected triad in the spiritual and mental evolution of human beings, as described in the Urantia book. Let's explore how these concepts are unified. The evolutionary ladder of consciousness. The adjutants play a crucial role in developing consciousness, serving as a bridge between animal consciousness and human self-awareness. This evolutionary process can be seen as a continuum. 1. Animal consciousness. The first 5 adjutants, intuition, understanding, courage, knowledge, and counsel, operate in animals, providing basic mental functions. 2. Human self-consciousness. The full activation of all 7 adjutants, including worship and wisdom, marks the transition to human self-awareness. 3. God consciousness. The highest form of consciousness, facilitated by the interaction between the fully functioning adjutants and the indwelling thought adjuster. Self-consciousness is a pivotal point. The emergence of self-consciousness is a critical milestone in mental evolution. It represents the point where a being becomes aware of its own existence and thought processes. This self-awareness is made possible by the coordinated function of all 7 adjutant mind spirits, particularly the higher adjutants of worship and wisdom. The role of worship and wisdom. The adjutants of worship and wisdom are uniquely human and play a special role in the development of both self-consciousness and God consciousness. 1. Worship. This adjutant fosters the recognition of higher realities beyond the self, laying the groundwork for spiritual awareness. 2. Wisdom. The wisdom adjutant enables the integration of knowledge and experience, facilitating a deeper understanding of oneself and the universe. Preparation for God consciousness. The full functioning of all 7 adjutants, especially worship and wisdom, creates the mental environment necessary for thought adjuster indwelling. This preparation is crucial for the potential development of God consciousness. 1. The adjutants refine the mind, making it receptive to higher spiritual influences. 2. They create the capacity for conceptualizing and seeking the divine. 3. Worship and wisdom adjutants, in particular, orient the self-conscious mind toward cosmic realities. The thought adjuster and God consciousness. While the adjutants prepare the mind, it is the indwelling of the thought adjuster that truly enables God consciousness. This process represents the coordinated efforts of the Universe Mother Spirit, through the adjutants, and the Universal Father, through the thought adjuster, in fostering human spiritual growth. Implications for spiritual growth. The concepts of the adjutants, self-consciousness, and God consciousness are intricately linked in the Urantia book's cosmology. They represent different stages and aspects of the grand evolutionary plan for conscious beings, illustrating the purposeful and coordinated nature of mental and spiritual development in the universe.
So that concludes the readings from AI about the adjutant mind spirits. And the question of is it okay to use the scientific or the new technology in studying the Urantia book? For me, it's always been that way, from the earliest folio views to the search engines, which put it all together. So much information is scattered in various parts of the book. And the search engines really made that, gave us the tool to consolidate that information and achieve a higher understanding. And AI is just so new. I mean, 3 months ago, I could not have shown you this because they didn't have that available. Next year, who knows?
Thanks. Thanks, David, and thanks, Bruce. Any comments or questions?
I just wanted to point out that there's a very interesting comment in the U-Book in the section on God consciousness, which indicates that soul consciousness is like a stepping stone toward God consciousness. And I don't think that was mentioned here by AI's analysis.
That's there's probably quite a bit that's not mentioned. But that's a very good comment.
Yeah, Alfonso?
I know you use the Vandor, as an example, about how the adjutant spirit work. Can that be the same thing for horses and elephants, and and all those animals that you can use to mountain? Can that be described the same? Can they experience the same thing?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. That it's very similar, but each species has a different nature, a different combination and variation. It's not you have have an adjutant or not. So the horse's behavior is obviously different than a bird's behavior. So I don't have a specific answer for the different ones, except to say that all the variations of the adjutant mind spirits, we're just kind of scratching the surface with what these same spirits are present in all inhabited worlds of Nebadon, and who knows what all types of animal varieties out there.
But it looks like all five are available to animals like horses. They have the herd instinct, and that's mentioned as a feature of the spirit of counsel. So yeah, I think Pat's and they're all up there with the five adjutants. Only humans would become humans by having the wisdom and worship switched on.
I thought it was interesting, the one passage that was called out that said the spirits sort of act individually. In other words, they're all kind of putting their influence in. It's not necessarily, I mean, although we experience it just as one, we might have intuition functioning sort of more than courage, for example, and it just in a different person, right? Or at a different moment. And when you think about it, let's say you're confronted with you're scared or surprised or afraid, your sort of animal intuition is telling you to run or hide, to preserve yourself, right? You can see this in animals and people. But obviously there's spirit of courage, right? At some point, the dog decides to run away. At some point, the dog decides to bark and confront what's scaring it, right? And we all have that inside us, sort of automatically before we're able to intellectually process. So it's very interesting that these spirits are kind of each doing their part, but at any given point in time, just because of who we are or our circumstances, the influence of one might, be more than the other. And that explains a lot of animal human behavior, because we all have these different ways that we might react, right? Even before we get to our mental conscious choices. So anyway, sorry. Casey, you had a question or a comment?
Yeah, I'm just wondering if anybody has an intuitive sense or an opinion regarding what you might call the intelligence of plants. And I've always wondered if they're completely non-teachable, or if perhaps only the very first adjutant might be involved in their development and evolution.
It was like 550 million years ago when the life plasm was begun. It didn't transition to animal life until about 400 million years ago. And before that, I think it was the mechanical mind, the master physical control.
Controllers.
Controller. Yeah.
And it was only, they talk about the transition period with the fungus and slime, I think they use the term, that before it took animals for these the adjutant mind spirits that we were talking, it took something beyond plant life before they could become active. So I don't think there's as far as I can say, plants are just at the mechanical level of mind, so to speak.
So they do participate at least at some level with the master physical controller as to their intelligent evolution.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, through the master physical controllers. They were here before the life carriers were here. There's the non-teachable life forms is different than the adjutant mind spirits. Intuition's the only one that kind of rides the gray area between the two.
Mm-hmm. Great, thank you.
I wondered that too.
Yeah, I did too.
So, but I thought all life had to have these, even if it was just, it's that difference between the rock and the cell or the plant that, knows to reproduce and knows to, it's kind of active, and that has to have some, it's very, very absolutely primitive, but it is a mind type function that does that. It's not just, chemical reaction, right?
Right. That is the master physical controllers. The mechanical mind is
okay.
It's a cellular level, and life goes on at all different levels. But
right.
Let's get some other hands up here.
Yeah, Marion.
I've always been curious, and I wonder, David, if you could ask AI why the Fandors went extinct. If AI could bring in, I know the Urantia book doesn't say anything about it, but maybe it could bring in some other information. And do you have any ideas why the Fandors went extinct?
I wonder if we could find like bones or anything from Fandors. And the thing that I did ask AI at one point was, what was the process? What did it take to have a fleet of Fandors? And and I think it was the Andonic people. I think some of them had Fandors and some of them didn't have Fandors, and there were tribes of ones that had them and didn't have them, and there might have been a Fandor gap or something like that where
yeah, it's a really interesting question.
A simple question for the AI tool and David. What definition has the Urantia book for spirit? Just that, spirit. The definition for the spirit.
Well, I didn't specifically ask AI what that is, but the point, I guess, of the presentation is that you can check this out on your own. Perplexity AI, you would have to use the paid version, or I think they give you free examples of where you might have like 10 questions a day where you can ask these advanced questions to AI and see what the answers are. So instead of me trying to, that might be a separate spotlight or something, or just take questions for AI. But yeah, you could check that out if that's your interest.
Okay.
Thanks, Eduardo. Les, let's go back to you.
Sure. Again, I found it interesting of the reference or the explanation and description of the spirits as by the circuits and under the ministry of the mother spirits. And so I just found it very intriguing and powerful, because with that understanding of this the universalness of the circuits, and with the recognition of the universalness of the circuits, just how unifying that can be for us here in this crazy experience that we're going through.
Yeah. We think of the circuits of the monitor and the internet, but without the Adjutant mind spirit circuits, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
Les, I think I appreciate what you're saying in the form of, I complain about, I'm far, the divine mother spirit seems so far away is ironic, because it's that I can even think about her, that's only through her that I can think about her. And you talk about at the basic level of my mind, right there, these functions we're directly experienced in the creating mother spirit.
Yes, it's the circuits and the fields, which I think we have very superficial understanding of, and I just see that as a very huge, a huge area of study and growth. And then one other comment was, I found it intriguing that the machine and referred to itself as a machine in reference to the ability to understand worship and prayer, I believe. So that was an interesting distinction in that it does recognize itself and its capabilities and its restrictions.
Yeah.
Thanks. Kit, you have a question?
I found it fascinating about intuition being a bridge between the mechanical and non-mechanical, and that self-conscious conscience is the pivot point between number 5 and number 6. I hadn't thought about it that way. You're opening up my mind, and I appreciate that. I guess I do have a question about the adjunct spirits. You're saying that we wouldn't have had this conversation without them today, and I get that, but I think one of you said, when we go on to the Urantia world, the adjunct spirits don't come, we don't use them anymore, they stay here. And I guess the question I had is, I was told that when the animal dies, and I'm thinking specifically about my pet, okay? When the animals die, then all those good things that animal had goes back into the circuits of the adjunct spirits, back into the circuits, and is used, all those good qualities, all that good intuition, the good courage, all that stuff goes back in. So is the adjunct spirit circuits only on Urantia if they're not coming with? You lost me on that.
They're only on the native planets of the mortal planets. They're not in the Urantia worlds next life.
So those circuits just
that's
keep
why
going
the
around.
adjutant means stand-in. To us, it's all we know about. But
I think we're told that the connection is made on a Salvington sphere of the life carriers, and that's the sort of the connection point. And anything that is experienced, this is my estimation of what it is, but anything that's experienced by any animal is registered quantitatively and quantitatively on this sphere. And for use, however, I don't know how it's used or whether it's part of the supreme being. So I think that our memories of animals and our love for our animal friends, that would definitely be something that would stay, I would think.
It's a good question that's hard to answer.
Yeah, I think it's kind of speculative what the circuits would actually. I mean, there got to be some connection, right? So but I don't know that they retain. I don't know. I've always thought it was kind of like a Wi-Fi network. It kind of allows your machine of your brain to function, or an electrical power network. It kind of gives you the things to function, and you use it, but not something. It's not a repository of Like you're not tapping into someone else's intuition. I don't think.
No.
You can on a higher level, right? You can share thought experiences, and your adjusters can save things. Obviously, that's their whole and the soul. That's the kind of the whole purpose. But I don't know that the mind spirits are doing that as so much as just providing you the place or the ability to do it.
It's also important
Yeah.
to mention that there's more going on. We didn't mention personality today.
Right.
That's the everybody's individual gift, a personality that helps you. They call it the sorter of all these things. We need that too. But
we do know that nothing of
We got
value
some
is ever
other hands
lost
up
in
here.
the universe.
Right. Right.
We need the 7 adjutant spirits here on this planet, and a lot of that is because of the absence of the Urantia. We don't have a connection to the Urantia information or circuit energy, and so all these things help us in lieu of that, because we don't have it. But they also sort of prepare us to move into the Urantia existence after this. And then once we get there, because we are in the Urantia world and we have access to that circuit, it's no longer necessary to have the adjutants.
we all get a new car.
Thank you.
Kenneth, it's
Yeah.
good.
We're all getting an electric car instead of a gas car, and there's no gas pumps up there. There's just
The
plug in.
OVW bug is finally done us down. We got some other hands there.
Yeah.
Tim.
Colette?
On animals, well, the adjutant, the 5 first, they make the animal to function. And we are also animals. So the first 5 makes us function. First reflex and courage to go into action and do what we need to do. And to put something from us into the supreme the supreme mind, well, we need wisdom and worship and wisdom. It's because we produce mind spiritual values that goes back into the supreme mind. Animals can't do that. Animals, they can't produce, they're not sensible to values. Thanks.
Thanks, Colette.
Thanks for the presentation, Bruce and David. Thanks.
Okay, Linda, and then we'll go to Judy. Sorry, Linda, go ahead.
All 7 adjutant mind spirits are in a way dependent on receptivity. They're seeking a receptive mind, and that would go for animals, humans. The way I read the Urantia book, and I'm trying to find it, but I don't want to read and miss what's being said. My understanding is that the plant world is very much a part of this receptivity. But also there are just so many remarkable stories of animals seemingly acting with intelligence to save lives. I mean, the whole Lassie phenomenon. I just think the world is just excitingly filled with remarkable stories of the guidance of the 7, all 7 in our lives, based on receptivity, which is our personality.
No, your comment though is a good one. These other spirits, I mean, even though there's the 2 that make us human, obviously are very important. A lot goes on with those other 5, and they're responsible for running lives, and a lot of our lives that don't rise to this, wisdom and worship. There's a lot of our lives that doesn't, that doesn't get that far. And I think isn't there some comment about we're actually developing we need to develop the full potential of all of them, but that hasn't happened yet. There's a lot more that these mind spirits still have to do in terms of our evolution and our growth. Isn't there, Bruce? I don't know where that is. Maybe you do.
Yeah, it's under the where in a thought adjuster's message to it. It's immortal, where it says it's sad that the human mind. Let's see. So few mortals are real thinkers, do not spiritually develop or discipline your minds. They're so completely dominated by the chemical and electric forces that it's almost impossible to register the inspiring spirit leadings.
Yeah, but you're right, Linda. Like when they talk about End and Infanta, it's like those last two spirits are just waiting. They're there, but the evolving hominids can't, their brain isn't quite enough. And then all of a sudden, End and Infanta's brain was, and they're like, it kind of lights up, but they were there waiting. So they're always there waiting for us to be used. We might reject them or not really get the full effect, right? Judy.
But I want to ask David, and your experiment, what do you think of the results of your experiment? I mean, the veracity or things that made sense or didn't make sense to you. I'd love your summary as to what you think of the outcome of this experiment.
Yeah, and that is what it is and what it continues to be, an experiment to just see if it's able to coordinate all of this information. And I wonder, in fact, it's almost sure that this AI is not just on Urantia. I think it's something that happens on every planet that has people that are developing civilizations and technology. And it was something that couldn't be mentioned in the Urantia book because they can't talk about any human developments that are going to happen within 1,000 years, and that this would be one of those. So how it's going to be like in a year or in 10 years, I don't know, but it's almost like you'll have a Urantia book teacher and it can be restricted to just what the Urantia book says. And if that's the case, like any question you have, for the first thing is read the book. I mean, the book is the thing. That's what we're given. But as far as using tools like search engines or word processors to write things about it, I think it's going to be a valuable tool for us to make use of, if that's your thing.
Thank you.
Eduardo.
Yes, I would like to say how wonderful it is to see how fully assisted we are, because we live in a material world, a universe of space and time. And for that, we are a company of these 7 assistants for dealing, for handling our lives in the evolutionary material life. And they guide us to the next step, that is our thought adjuster. But beside, we have the truth spirit. And those, one is a gift from the Father, the other from the Son, and the 7 we are talking about today from the Mother, from the Infinite Spirit. And that's just amazing. And not mentioning about seraphims, angels, and all these beings that are aware of us, trying to move us forward. That's it.
Yeah. Thank you, Eduardo. That's a good reminder of the source of all these different wonderful things. Marion?
One thing that always helped me with thinking about adjutant mind was to think of the brain as a human biocomputer, and that as we evolved, the different programs, I think of adjutant mind as programs, were able to insert it into the biocomputer. And that's always how I've thought of it. And I liked how your AI pointed out that they, I believe it was that they weren't personal spirits.
Thanks, Marion. Let's try to get to everybody. Jan?
Hi, thank you. It's a great program. I would like to point out that the sixth and seventh spirit make us human, but in reality, all of them should be used during our lifetime. I will read that's 4878 from Moroncha. To enjoy privilege without abuse, to have liberty without license, to possess power and steadfully refuse to use it for self-aggrandizement, these are the marks of high civilization. I think when we understand that each of those spirits is working within us to make us better, then we'll make a better civilization.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you.
Oh, well put.
Yeah, thank you. That's a good reminder. Right. All these things are there for a reason, not just to get us to the last two. Marjorie.
The Center for Unity is currently developing a Urantia Book Tutor based on AI. It's been a huge challenge. If you don't understand how AI on the whole works, it is probability based. And so to give you an example is if you ask the question, was Mary a virgin? It will say yes, unless you have limited it to the Urantia book, because there's a billion references out on the internet and it scrapes the internet. And so probability, it says, you know, the few quotes about the Urantia book against the bazillion ones, and it will answer yes. So you have to limit, and like David has said, the big thing is learning how to write prompts for it. And the other thing is that AI isn't set up to give you very good, you know, we always want a quote, you know, and where did it come from in the book? And it's kind of hard for AI isn't really set up to do that. So we've overcome some problems. But the tutor should be available hopefully this next year, where you will be using, you know, you will be talking but the interesting things about it is that it always ends asking you a question to think about what you're going to do, you know, should maybe think about next. And I've been testing some of it out. It's certainly not, it's like any other of the AI. It can hallucinate. There are these things where they call hallucinations. And so you have to be careful. But it's like David said, read the book first and then begin to delve in it by using AI.
We actually did do the about Mary, and it being that it was instructed not to go outside of the book, it gave a proper answer from the Urantia book.
Okay, well, we're out of time, unfortunately, but great session, you guys. Thank you so much for the work you put into it and sharing.
Yeah.
Really appreciate
Thank you
it.
all.
It's a great topic. Obviously, it could spawn more. If any of the others of you, or you know people who are interested in this or another topic and you want to get on our list, please let Joanne know. We're always looking for new speakers. Our next spotlight is on February 8th. Is that the right date? And it's going to be, are they still here? Yes. The Andersons, husband and wife, you can see there. You can see they're going to present on the. My mind is going blank. It's government, right? Actually, why don't you guys just give a 30-second preview? That's better than me mangling it.
Well, it's government,
David,
evolution, and revelation. And we're going to talk about what the Urantia book says about government. It actually says quite a bit. We have the evolution of government and the state. We have government on another planet and neighboring planet. And also we have the Urmia lectures. There's really quite a bit about government in the Urantia book. And truthfully, it's really important. There's only two forms of sovereignty, the individual and global. And the other critical thing running through it is evolution. And, you know, we are the evolutionary end result is global government. We are not there. We're at the nation level, and we need to move to global government. And it's part of a pre-stage of light and life, but it's some place we need to go.
And the inspiration
Right.
is considering government on the central universe, there is none because they don't need it. So
They don't need it, right? It's super important, but ultimately we don't need it. Okay, well, enough spoilers. Look forward to that in February from you guys, February 8th, also this same time on a Saturday.
yes.
Hope to see you all there. Thank you for coming. Thank you for giving us part of your day. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we will see you soon.
And thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone. Thank you.